Welcome to the Ditch the Diet Masterclass. I'm really happy to see you all here. I hope you're all feeling well after this long holiday weekend and really after the long holiday month. It's just such a busy time. Lots of cookies, holiday parties, shopping to do, just a ton of stuff that can really derail you, right? So, no matter how you arrived here tonight, maybe you're feeling really great after the holiday, you kept it all together, you're feeling good, or maybe you're not. Just give yourself a big pat on the back just for making the time in your busy schedule to sit down, plan out your goals for the upcoming year. Tonight, we'll make some simple, actionable planning steps and you'll leave with a plan to execute starting right now. We don't need to wait until the new year. So if you're feeling ready, go ahead and go for it. If you haven't already, I suggest printing out the program guide. It came out in your email. Grab a pen, work through the questions live. I find that putting pen to paper in this sort of situation really helps you work through things and create something that you're going to follow through on. So first, who am I? I know a lot of you who will be watching this either live or on the recording are current clients or friends, family members. So you know me, but there's a lot of new faces on our roster tonight as well. So welcome to all of you. My name's Jackie Durand. I'm a registered dietitian and owner of JD Nutrition LLC. And I'm happy to say that this February, I'm actually celebrating 5 years in business, which is really hard to believe it's been that long already. And honestly, it's been a wild ride between personal and world events happening in the last 5 years. A lot has had to change. So I started out seeing clients one-on-one in 2018. I actually had them coming to my home office, and I absolutely loved that. I used to do one-on-one practice before I started my own, and so I really loved continuing that. And I loved that all the way up until the pandemic hit in 2020. And then after a really interesting readjustment period with no in-person meetings and my 18-month-old daughter home with me indefinitely, I transitioned into virtual one-on-one sessions, which actually turned out to be a blessing in disguise. I was actually able to help more people because they could do meetings from home, they could do it from work, they didn't have to drive to my office, and it just opened up the window for more accessibility. So I actually thought that was pretty great, and that's why I've continued that. In the spring of 2021, I actually launched my very first online program, which was a way for me to serve even more people working on their weight loss goals. So it was more of a group setting where I could help more people at once, which was great. And since then, a few updated versions have come out. Each was an improvement upon its former version, which brings us to now. This January, I'm actually relaunching this program again under the Ditch the Diet name. So I've taken what's worked well in the past couple of years. I've added even more content, more support options, and I've developed version, let's say 3.0. It's probably like 3.8 at this point, which is the Ditch the Diet online program. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that as we go tonight. But for tonight, let's get down to the brass tacks of what we're here for. All right. So you're here because you want to make a change to your lifestyle. You responded to this invitation and you're here because you want an action plan. Maybe the overarching goal, the primary goal is weight loss, but maybe you also need to get another health condition under control. Maybe that cholesterol has come up a little bit, the blood pressure is out of control, something else may be going on in the background. And whatever your motives, you're here tonight. And so I want to support that and really lift you to a place of action. So if you've been hoping to make some changes for a while, but haven't really dug your heels in to get started, I hope to move you to that place tonight. And maybe you're a little bit nervous about what we're going to be attempting to do here. You know, you've probably dieted before. You feel like you know what you need to do, but you just haven't been able to stick to it. And if you really are planning to start a New Year's resolution, you're probably just dreading a little bit the endless supply of salads that you've got planned and the grueling workout schedule that you're going to be experiencing. And I don't really blame you. I get sick of salads. I really like to have a lot of variety in my meal plan. And I don't like doing cardio until the cows come home either. So I'm going to challenge you a little bit here on what your intuition is when it comes to dieting and rethink it a little bit. If there's something that hasn't worked before, maybe it's time to think about something different. And so that leads us to the first question. What diet worked for you before? And I'll give you just a minute to think about that. This is the first prompt in your workbook. So just take a second to say, all right, what diets have I done? What worked? What didn't work? It's okay to say nothing worked. Sometimes that's the answer too. Some input here, increasing exercise, decreasing sugar intake. Yeah, feeling that after the holiday cookies for sure. Okay, and second part of this question, what is your definition for success? And this is really the challenge here. So, of the things that you wrote down, can you say that any of those really worked? So, if you lost weight during this program, you felt pretty good about it, but you eventually fell back into your old habits, gained that weight back. Can you really consider that a large success? Maybe partly, sure. So, here's my definition of what worked. So, if a diet worked for you, it has become a part of your lifestyle. So I find that diet plans that tell you exactly what to eat and do for exercise don't really work because it's someone else's version of success. So if it did work, you were able to reach your goal and maintain it. And you would have been able to fuse those things together. So your lifestyle prior to doing this diet no longer exists, and your lifestyle now has fused with that plan. And last challenge here, if it worked, would you actually be with me here tonight? And the answer to this last one may be yes, because a lot of you are friends and family and etc. But maybe you're still working on your goal. So you're really looking to enhance and just really set a good goal for 2023. And that's awesome. Or maybe you did reach your goal and now you're resetting your sights a little bit higher now. And I really do hope that for all of you, that would be awesome. So at this point, if you cannot honestly say that your past dieting experiences actually worked, it may be time to forget what you already know about dieting. So challenge the diet rules that you have in place. We do this a lot in the Dish to Diet program because there are a lot of things that you don't recognize as some input that you had from a diet that actually doesn't work for you. Like a big one for a lot of people is not eating past 7 p.m. Oprah told us that in the 90s. There's a lot of people that have really grabbed onto that. But if that's not something that works for you and you're feeling the need to do it, but you don't follow through, it just creates this guilt. And for what? You know, if it's not working for you, we should just get rid of it rather than feeling guilty about not doing it. In the program, we do have a whole module about challenging these diet rules and recognizing them in your own diet. But just be wary of that. You know, if you come up with something in your head that's saying, all right, I feel guilty for not doing this or for doing this, just take a second to say, where is that actually coming from? Is that information and is this rule actually helping me? And if it's not, then you can go ahead and let it go. No cutting out food groups, no skipping social outings, no feeling uncomfortably hungry all day. These are all things that don't work. We know that deprivation doesn't work, and yet we do it anyway. This is the basis of our dieting culture. So if you're planning a diet that revolves strictly around low calorie foods for losing weight, you may want to rethink that. Now, you also want to focus on these other health goals that you may have as well. So if you do have something like an elevated cholesterol that you're working on, is the plan that you're considering now in line with getting that under control or not? And if it isn't, you may want to try to find something that fuses not only getting the weight off and getting that under control, but anything that you have going on health wise aside from that. So, yes, you'll need to be burning off more calories than you take in if weight loss is your goal. That's just science. But you don't need to give up anything or feel starved between meals. You don't need to stop eating out or take on any food rules that stomp out your joy. So, let's get to work on whatever the alternative is going to be. So, next question in your workbook. What is your long-term goal? So I'm assuming this is weight related, but anything else you have as your long-term goal, you can add in here too. If it is weight related, was there a weight that you had in the recent past that you felt pretty comfortable at? Was it a measure of physical fitness that you had. Were you in better health at a certain time? Are you looking to get back to that? It could be a comparison point. I do recommend to everybody I talk to not to go too far back in time. So if you are dreaming of being at your high school weight again, just know that that weight and that lifestyle is probably not realistic. Do you have kids now? Do you have a job now? Your lifestyle is completely different. The things you were doing were different. And plus, your body wasn't even fully developed at that time. So having that high school weight is just unrealistic. So think recent past when you're thinking about this. All right. So long-term goal, I see some messages here, just overall health. We have a gluten and dairy-free lifestyle, getting regular exercise. That's great. See, I like that one. So including regular exercise is the act of doing something as part of your long-term goal. And I think that's a good step ahead. So think 15 minutes in the future of this webinar is getting to that stage. That's awesome. So now that you have your long-term goal on here, looking at it on paper, does looking at this seem overwhelming? So let's say you want to lose 100 pounds. Overwhelming, right? But what we need to do is figure out how we're going to get there. Looking at this from a neuroscience perspective, we know that the brain does not do well with broad and sweeping goals. We are very cause and effect driven when it comes to thought. So in order to follow through on our goals, we need to be as specific and bite-sized as possible, creating these really tiny tasks and very concrete things to feel confident that we're accomplishing something. And it really has to be in a timely manner. So we can achieve this by creating our SMART goals. So you'll see the SMART acronym here. And we're going to work through this a little bit more in a little bit. But we'll get some actionable steps going. But first, we need to tackle another problem. And that is, what do you need to know? Okay. And I wonder if anyone else has talked to you about this in the past, just knowing where your blind spots are. What do you need to know more about in order to set you up for success? We know that you need to eat differently to lose weight or better manage your cholesterol, but do you know exactly what changes you're supposed to be making? Or do you know how to create a healthy calorie deficit for weight loss? I think that's a really big one. And that's something that the average person gets wrong. Let's just brainstorm this a little bit. So first off, what is your biggest obstacle when dieting? If there are a couple things that trip you up, that really throw you off plan, what are those things? And what information would you need to alleviate that? And so if you feel like your blind spots are really with nutrition, you could say that you need a better idea of how to balance out meals, a crash course in healthy meal planning, looking at optimal meal times, maybe all of the above, maybe an entire nutrition education. If this isn't something that you've gotten into before, you may need to start from scratch. This second question is very important as well. So what are your thoughts on where to get the information, where to look for help with these things? Maybe list a couple places that you can look. I'll just share with you quick too that when we are in the Ditch the Diet program, we learn about what's needed in a weight loss diet to keep you feeling full and satisfied. So balanced nutrition and getting the body everything it needs is really important for that fullness and that satisfaction. Meal balance, timing are also really important as well. So those are all covered in our modules. And so I'd love to see you join the Ditch the Diet program, but if that's just not in the cards for you right now, I still want to make sure that you're getting the right information. The worst thing that you can do is waste time taking bad advice from unqualified people all over the internet. And honestly, that can be downright harmful. I've worked with some people that did some pretty good damage to themselves following some crazy things on the internet. So I want you to find some reputable sources. So look for things online that are written by universities and hospitals, registered dietitians, physical therapists, certified personal trainers, doctors, YouTube influencers, nutritionists, not licensed, probably not a reliable source. And if you aren't sure, I want you to let me know. You can always email me. So even if you're not a client, if you are not interested in the program, I don't care. I just want you to find the right information. That is a pet peeve of mine and a passion project for getting rid of misinformation out there. So feel free, let me know what you're working on and I'll guide you to some of the resources that you need. And here's a good rule of thumb. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. We know that. So steer clear of offers for quick results, dramatic things that are happening in a short period of time. There's really no substitute for putting in the work. So don't waste your time. Try to do this the right way if you can. So let's take a look at some of these things just to get you started. So we know that nutrition is a big part of this. We know that exercise and your mindset are a big part of this. So let's talk about some ways that you can really get started this evening. So let's talk nutrition first. So you may recognize this little plate structure. I've probably shown you the My Plate guidelines if we've met in session before. And so this is my version, my weight-centric version. So basically the difference here is the total left-hand side is made up of vegetables. And in the USDA guidelines, it's fruits and vegetables. I categorize fruits in the all carb section. And so if you are serving yourself just your normal dinner in this proportion, you're not changing the bulk of food that's on your plate. You're not changing or skipping anything that's in your meal, but you're changing the ratio of how much calories you're actually taking in. So you're focusing in on the calorie low, non-starchy veggies, and then the calorie dense things are in smaller portions on the other side. And so this is a great way to get started, especially if you're cooking for a family, or if you have someone in the household that is like really not on board with what you're doing and you don't want to cook two different meals. Just think about replating some things. This can actually get you pretty far. And you may find that you're feeling just as satisfied, even just making these small changes. And if you're not sure what falls into these categories, I'm going to be sending you a quick reference guide after tonight's presentation. So check your email. It will be in tonight's follow-up email. All right, now let's take a look at exercise. We know that a healthy body is moving and that regular exercise is a great way to manage things like diabetes and your blood sugar. It can help us lower cholesterol and blood pressure, and it does help us maintain a healthy weight. There really is no magic bullet here. You really have to put in the work. And so if you're here and you're rolling your eyes about this exercise equation, just know, yes, it's important. And you could be one of two people. And the solution to this really drives down to one thing. So you're either person number one, you never enjoyed exercise. Gym class was a very stressful occasion. And on the attempts that you tried to work out, you collapsed on the couch after these vigorous classes. And then you felt guilty for not finishing, or you did finish, but you never did it again because it was just god awful, right? It's not a regular part of your routine because you simply don't enjoy it. Or maybe you were a good exerciser in the past. You had a really good routine going. Maybe you did team sports, and so you were very active that way. But life has changed. Maybe your old workout routine isn't possible. Maybe you've got kids, you change jobs, move to a new city, your schedule is really different. Or maybe you were on a sports team and now it's not just, going to practice after school because they tell you to. Now it's up to you to get it started. So, whatever that is, choosing the right activity for you, regardless of whether you've exercised before or not, that is the key to making it a part of your regular routine. You need to find things that you're enjoying or can, let's say, at least tolerate for now. And in our Ditch a Diet program, we do explore all the different types and forms of exercise so that you can build yourself a balanced routine. You can explore some new options, and we'll take concrete steps to make sure that you're planning it in on a weekly basis rather than just saying, oh, I'd like to exercise. That would be wonderful, right? No, this is when we're going to do it. This is what we're going to do. Here's how we're going to follow through. And that's what most people need in that support, just to make sure that they are following through on that. All right. So I always like to set some little goals for exercise. So let's do that. For now, let's at least plan to make some form of movement or exercise a part of your weekly routine. what are your favorite forms of exercise? You can go ahead and add this into your workbook. And if you don't really have one, maybe you really hate exercise, you could start with something like simple walking, or even start looking into exercises that intrigue you. So, a while back, I saw an ad for aerial yoga or something, and they've got these big cords or something hanging from the ceiling, and you just do these acrobatic looking things. And although I've never seen where this actually happens, I was intrigued. And so, if there's something that sort of piqued your interest that you may be interested in looking at, go ahead and see what you can do with that. Is there a class near you? Is there something online for like a YouTube video that you can find to do that? All right. Now, so once you have a couple of ideas what your favorite forms of exercise are, we can try to fit these into the weekly routine. So as you're fitting something into your weekly routine, be very specific. So if you have the opportunity now to look at your calendar, pull it out, look at it on your phone, and just look at the coming week. So this is what I do. So between work stuff and family stuff and whatever else I have to do, no 2 weeks really ever look the same. And so as it's beginning, I try to take a look at my to-do lists and identify places where exercise can fit in. And where I fit it in depends on what I want to do as well. So thinking about, just doing a spin class on YouTube on my bike at the house. I need a shower after that. So you have to schedule in time for stuff like that as well. So just be cautious of little things like that. Or if you're going to a gym for a class, think about travel time and how much time it's going to take. Let's say you're taking it for a lunch break and you have to get back in time, etc. How can you fit it in? So I make a point to do this because exercise was never part of my daily routine. I was actually person one in that scenario. I hated gym class. I could never touch my toes or run the mile or do any of that kind of stuff. But now exercise is a weekly part of my routine because I plan it in. So it's something that can easily get pushed off. And I know that I have gone through periods where I'd go several months without like a formal exercise routine and I just felt like crap. So I know that exercise works for me. I know it makes me feel good, but I still have to plan it in. So if you're ever hoping for that time when it's just going to feel easy, stop waiting, just plan it in there and get it done. Yet check it off your to-do list, just like anything else. So make it a priority. All right, a follow-up question to that. Just kind of curious, how many times per week, let's say just for the next week or so, do you think you could fit in some sort of exercise, either walking, fitness class, something like that? All right, I see walks on lunch breaks. That's great. 30-minute yoga class. Oh, someone says their workplace actually hosts yoga on site. That's awesome. Yeah, and if a lot of companies actually do that. So if you're not familiar with what your company offers, either in-house or online or something like that, part of their wellness program, that may be a good place to start and just check out some of the options. All right, so we've covered nutrition, we've covered exercise. So another big part of this process and staying on track for the long term is thinking about mindful eating. The backbone of my practice, so both in one-on-one and in my program, is the idea of intuitive eating and mindfulness. Now, we're all born with intuitive eating skills. And if you look at a newborn baby, this is the perfect example. So we know that they cry when they want to eat and they get what they want. They're signaling you that they want something to eat. And if you're feeding a baby a bottle, a baby will stop when it's full, right? So no matter how many ounces, you put in there, the baby is going to stop when it's done rather than finishing when the entire bottle is gone. And that is your intuition in a nutshell. Your body knows when it's full and it sends you natural satiety cues to let you know to stop eating at a certain time. And this intuition helps to maintain an ideal body weight for us. And so often when we're dieting, we ignore these hunger signals and go against what our body knows that it needs just for the sake of following the plan. Remember, this optimal plan that you're following is someone else's ideal plan, right? And that's a big mistake because the body does know what's best. And tapping back into these signals allows us to fuel properly and maintain a healthy weight without a whole lot of thought. And you'll notice I say maintain a lot here. So there's a little bit of a caveat if you're looking to lose weight. And we really dive into that in our learning modules in the program too. So just know that you're going to need to be slightly uncomfortable, a little undersatisfied in order to create a calorie deficit. Mindfulness, on the other hand, is a tool that helps us tap back into these intuitions and cut through some of the emotional eating situations that arise. So mindfulness is simply the act of being aware of our hunger and fullness cues before, during, and after eating. It's possible to be mindful with everything, right? So with food, with exercise, with really any aspect of your life. So it's also mindful just to plan your meals and make sure that you're shopping and having ingredients on hand. It's enjoying the taste of the food. It's appreciating it while you're eating it rather than just wolfing it down. And this emotional connection and this, presence in the eating process is actually a part of that physical satiety cue as well. And so it's not just your stomach telling you that you're satisfied, it's also your mind. And this is something that's lacking in traditional diets. We really just look at the calories and the types of foods that we're eating, and not that we're a social, emotional eating being, right? This is new. So why aren't we mindful eating already? We're too distracted is usually rule number one. So we eat while we're working, we eat in front of the TV, we scroll our phone. So just take a second to think about even just the last meal that you ate. Do you really remember? Sure, you remember, recall probably what you ate, but do you remember the act of eating all the way through? What is distracting you while you eat? Just in the last meal, or if there's something common thread that you want to talk about, feel free to put that in your workbook. So we have some distractions, and we also have this, right? Okay, so let's think about the problem that we have at hand, this education piece. So we've learned a little bit more about nutrition. We've discovered some ways that we can make some changes and learn some places that we can find some of the information. Same thing with exercise. We're looking at this mindfulness, and I think that's going to help us a lot. Just being more mindful of the choices that you're making and the way that you react to food can make a huge difference here. So, what obstacles have thrown you off course in the past? This is a good first start here. Thinking about things like, okay, I'm PMSing this week, right? I have a stressful work deadline. I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. What are some things that trip you up? What are some things that you're recognizing as problematic? Right. And so experiencing how stress and things like lack of sleep and work deadlines and all of that can change your hormones is really important. So this is a good education piece. If you're not really sure how that works, something to look into as well. And so there's a lot of different factors going on there, but simply being aware that you may crave certain foods, you may crave more or less food given certain situations, bringing light to it can help you solve the problem. So recognizing it, seeing it happening can help you make a different decision, a more conscious decision. So some of these other obstacles that you wrote down, follow-up question, how quickly do you recognize that it has altered something? So when we have a really stressful work week, do you let it affect you immediately? Do you say, okay, Sunday night's coming, you see your week coming, you say, all right, my work schedule is so busy, I'm just going to forget all about exercise this week. And so you're sort of making a conscious decision ahead of time. That's very common. Or, if you have a best laid plan for it, maybe you get a couple days of your exercise routine in, and then shortly after it falls by the wayside a little bit. What is your pattern? How quickly are you recognizing it? And maybe that can lead to planning differently. So maybe instead of trying to get like a full hour workout in every day, you're cutting it back to 15 or 20 minutes. So you're still maintaining something. You can always adjust. All right. And I know these are sort of hard questions to answer because you don't know what you don't know, right? And so unless you're recognizing it, it can be hard to confront it. So it may be impossible to recognize that some of the current food rules and obstacles that you have aren't working for you until you're actually confronted with a new way of doing something. So you may not see that that one missed workout led to a full month of no workouts after that, right? Until that month has gone by and the no workouts have been had. So I encourage you to stay mindful and just be aware when things start slipping by, so that you can try to catch it before it goes for too long. So this is going to help you consistently work towards your goal rather than getting derailed and really having to start. And this is really what behavior change is all about. No one's asking you to be perfect. We're just talking about chipping away at some of these old habits. So what I've done in the Ditch the Diet program is gathered everything that I've learned through study, through practice with clients, through my personal experience, and put it in here so that you can start to recognize some of your own blind spots. And shedding this light will help you to problem solve and keep moving as you go forward. It's time to take some action. So you know what your big goal is. You've explored some of the educational gaps that you may have in things like your nutrition education, exercise. We've set some little goals and set some ideas in motion here. So why don't we finish off by actually creating a SMART goal? I introduced this acronym to you a little bit earlier. It stands for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. And any goal that you set, you really want to make sure it fits this framework so that it is concrete enough for you to put in your calendar, check off your to-do list, and really just follow through. So, what action are you willing to start working on this week? So, maybe it's exercise, nutrition related, whatever it is, just jot a couple things down here. Now, let's make sure that your goal is specific. And if you'd like to share the specifics of it, go ahead and put it in the chat, but I'll give you an example. So this week, I will get out for a walk at lunchtime on Monday, Thursday, and Friday. Is it specific? Yes. We are walking at lunchtime, Monday, Thursday, and Friday. Pretty specific. Measurable, yes. At the end of the week, you can say that you either did or didn't do that all 3 days. Achievable, yes. We're not aiming to climb Mount Everest this week. I think that's pretty achievable. Realistic, yeah. 3 out of 7 days to get a walk in, pretty realistic there. And timely. So this is happening over a short period of time, and this is really key. So things that can be done daily and weekly are going to be much easier to follow through than things saying you're going to do something monthly or by the end of the year. There's just a lot of room for procrastination on that. And so if you've got a shorter time frame, it makes it a little bit easier. Okay. And you can create some sub goals for this as well. And so if planning is really something that trips you up, you can plan to plan. And that sounds a little silly, but when we were talking before about breaking out the calendar, looking at what days you can get an exercise routine in, you have to set aside a time to do that too. So even just adding in a note to your calendar on, let's say, Friday afternoon or Sunday afternoon, saying, okay, at 5 o'clock, we're going to look at the calendar. We're going to take a look at where we can fit it in and we're going to plan it out, right? So plan to plan. All right. And so last but not least, we need to think about what kind of support you need to follow through. So we've already seen this in the comments already over here. Part of the goal is just being able to do something consistently. And I know that is a problem for a lot of my clients. It's a problem for me as well. Like I said, that's the reason that I'm planning in my exercise on a weekly basis. So what kind of support do you think that you need? Do you feel like you do pretty well on your own once you set a goal? Would something like, reading articles or just getting some basic information be all the support you need? Or would you be more likely to follow through on something if you had a legit support system in place? Most likely you would, right? It's human nature to be a community partner. And so it may help even if you just have like a workout buddy. Maybe you can invite a friend or a coworker on your walk, or at the very least, tell someone what you're up to, right? So if you're telling your spouse or a friend, family member, just that, hey, you're going to start a walking program, or, you're trying to reform some of your nutrition habits, whatever it is. They may not even be checking up on you. And in fact, it may be more annoying if they are. But just having someone aware of it creates some sort of external accountability. And that's going to help you follow through. Now, all people, no matter how much they deny it, will fall victim to procrastination when they're working on their own, but they're more likely to follow through on something when they're doing it for somebody else, right? We're givers rather than takers, historically, as people. So in the Ditch to Diet program, we do have a lot of support too. So if any of this is striking your interest, you will know that we do have a full support community. So as well as doing the self-paced learning modules, we have a Ditch community support page, which is basically like a social media platform. So you can go on that anytime. You can brainstorm solutions to the obstacles that you're dealing with. We talk about meal planning. I'm loading tons of recipes on there here as we speak. Getting around things like hungry times of the day, getting exercise ideas, all sorts of stuff. And we also do live weekly trainings as well, which you can either attend live or watch the recordings for, just to come and ask questions, get support, get some motivation. Sometimes just coming to something like that refocuses your intentions for what you're trying to do, even if it's other people talking about different problems. So if you've ever felt the need to go it alone before, this may be one of your blind spots. If you're having a hard time being consistent about something for a long time after that initial motivation wears off, just know that this may be one of the reasons you haven't been consistent. Maybe it's that lack of support. Needing help isn't a weakness, but refusing to ask for help is. All right. And with that nugget, let's go ahead and wrap up for tonight. Today, we mapped out your big goal and we honed that in a little bit using our SMART goal setting system to create at least one small goal to add to your weekly task list. Now, if you're ready to make some bigger moves, just work through that whole process again. So go through, figure out what else you could be doing, make sure it's a SMART goal, make sure it's realistic to fit in your schedule, and you're mapping that out. And you can really work with that framework as long as you need to. So, and if you haven't already, go ahead and put whatever that goal is in your calendar. Remember, it's got to be in there. I got my purple exercise bars on my calendar. So whatever color resonates well with you, go ahead and mark it in your calendar. So I do have a little homework for you, and that is simply to take action. So whether you're starting on January 1st or if you're motivated to start today, just do something, right? And that may be just getting more information, finding some of those reputable sources we talked about. And like I said, if you need help with that, let me know. And I do want you to check out the details of the Ditch the Diet program as well. The nice thing is you can do it all on your own schedule. So it's all self-paced. You can do it when you've got time. You can come to the live weekly sessions or watch the replays, let's say after the kids go to bed. And then you can get that support that you need. So you can start building these small concrete goals and really start following through on them long term. So if you've ever started a diet and gave up within the month, you know that follow through for that long term is really the hardest part. Okay, and last, before we do our Q&A, I just want to give you a big special thank you here. So if you've enjoyed tonight's class and you feel that you gained quite a bit from working through these questions, using that workbook, you really just experienced what these self-paced modules in the program are all about. So there is a master program book that you'll basically be doing the same things in to help you follow through and take action. So go ahead and check out the program details, the curriculum, all that. And you will be getting a 25% off coupon code in your email tonight. So if you're interested in that, that expires New Year's Eve, right? December 31st. Yes. So you'll get some more info about that in your follow-up email for tonight. And I'll also be offering some 15-minute mini sessions this week. I think Saturday I have that scheduled for. So if you want to talk about it, if you want to talk through your goals a little bit more, take a look at your email. There's going to be a link for signing up for that as well. Now, after all is said and done, if you join the program, I want you to be absolutely thrilled with the program. And so if you do go for it and you're not satisfied that it was the right choice, I've got a 100% money back guarantee as long as you let me know within the first 30 days of purchase. No strings attached, although I will ask you why so that I can help to make the program better if there's something that I can do. All right. So we have reached the end, my friends. So thank you all for coming. I hope that you're taking away even just some small action things just to sort of get that motivation flowing. Remember, you don't have to wait until the new year to start doing this and start to work on your goals. All right, great. Well, I want to thank you all one more time for coming for tonight. You really did put in some time and effort. I hope that you all printed out the workbook and have that to go now and look back at. And just remember that you can look back on that anytime as you're refreshing your goals. Go through that process once again and just keep yourself going. And you may even want to plan in a time on a monthly basis to go back, take a look at that, make sure that you follow through on your goals, and then push forward, make some new stuff, and keep yourself going that way as well. So once again, thank you all for coming, and you all have a great rest of your night.